For classic matches done in the same style as this one, go over to patreon.com/drunkredhead. Previously on my World Cup qualifying roundup, we were looking at the final matchday in African qualifying, including this goal by Meni Benatia of Morocco, which helped them qualify for the World Cup for the first time in 20 years. This time out, it's the playoffs, it's our finale, and we start at North Harbour Stadium in Auckland for the first leg of Oceania's final round, when New Zealand were hosting the Solomon Islands. The winner of this round went through to the playoffs. The home side got the ball rolling on 18 minutes when Chris Wood gave them the lead. He then doubled that lead on 36 minutes with an audacious little chip. 3 minutes later and the score was 3-0. Some awful Solomon Islands defending led to the goal. Barbarousse was scoring it on 39 minutes. Into the second half, and the Solomon Islands did pull a goal back on 53 minutes from the penalty spot, Henry Fa'arodo. Of course, this being 2017, you'd think someone would have put that in the highlight video, but no, instead you'll have to make do with Ryan Thomas's goal on 56 minutes and this great free kick from Michael McGlinchey on 81 minutes that made it 4-1 and 5-1 respectively. Deep in injury time, New Zealand had just enough time for one more goal. Chris Wood bagging his hat-trick to make it 6-1. That was your final score. The result, of course, meant that the second leg was probably a formality, but the Solomon Islands still gave it a good go at the Lawson Tama Stadium in Honiara. In this match, New Zealand struck early again, but it was third time lucky for it. First hitting the post, then the goalkeeper saved it. Maya Bevan finally getting the goal on 14 minutes. On 21 minutes, the All Whites raced into a 2-0 lead. An own goal from Ayangari this time, and it was looking pretty bleak for the Solomon Islands. However, a few moments later, the Solomon Islands were handed the opportunity to get back into the match, which they took from the spot on 28 minutes, Le'alafa scoring the goal. In the second half, simply put, it happened again. The Solomon Islands were handed the opportunity to score once more, once again from the penalty spot, and would they do it? Could they bring it back from 2-0 down to 2-2? Simply put again, yes they could, and don't worry Henry Fa'arodo, your penalty's not getting cut out this time. The final score, 2-2. New Zealand of course still won 8-3 on aggregate though. One more playoff spot to be decided. This one's in Asia as the two third place teams took on each other. This one's at the Hang Jebat Stadium in Krubong, Malaysia for security reasons, as Syria were hosting Australia, and unfortunately for them, Australia went into the lead on 40 minutes thanks to Robbie Cruz. But once again, there was a penalty decision, a dodgy handball, and Syria got the chance to equalise on 85 minutes. Al Samar scoring the goal, and the final score in the first leg was Syria 1, Australia 1. This result of course meant that there was all to play for in the second leg at Stadium Australia in Sydney. And early on we got a statement of intent from Syria, as on 6 minutes they took the lead thanks to Al Samar. Despite the Syrian goal, Australia had a counter statement, and on 13 minutes this was implemented successfully as Tim Cahill headed Australia back on level terms. From then on, the deadlock could not be broken and the match went into extra time. 109 minutes on the clock when once again it was Tim Cahill's head that proved to be decisive, giving Australia the winning goal and breaking Syrian hearts. The final score, Australia 2, Syria 1. Australia win 3-2 on aggregate. More from Australia and New Zealand later. Now, European qualifying playoffs. Northern Ireland versus Switzerland at Windsor Park in Belfast. The first leg was marred by an awful decision which gave Switzerland a penalty. Scored by Ricardo Rodriguez on 58 minutes. That was your final score. Northern Ireland fans definitely aggrieved with that one. So into the second leg we went at St Jakob Park in Basel. And unfortunately this one finished 0-0. But to make Northern Irish fans feel a bit better, here's a couple of terrible chances from the Swiss to show they are human and it doesn't always go their way. Final score 0-0, but of course that means that Switzerland have qualified for Russia 2018, albeit controversially 1-0 on aggregate. Next we're off to Stadion Maksimir in Zagreb, where Croatia were hosting Greece. And it didn't start well for the Greeks thanks to this awful challenge from the goalkeeper, which conceded a penalty. Luka Modric stepped up to take it on 13 minutes and scored, giving Croatia the lead. Croatia continued to attack, and 6 minutes later a cheeky little flip from Nikola Kalinic made it 2-0. The Greeks were not dead and buried yet, and on 30 minutes, a far post header from Papastafopoulos got them a goal back. 3 minutes later, however, and Croatia were back in business. Even Perisic scoring his own far post header on 33 minutes, turning the score from 2-1 to 3-1. Croatia continued where they left off in the second half, scoring a fourth thanks to Kramaric taking advantage of poor Greek defending on 49 minutes. The final score, Croatia 4, Greece 1. The second leg took place at the Karaiskakis Stadium in Piraeus, and you'd think with a lead so commanding, Croatia may just go through the motions in the second leg, and it may have proved. The final score was 0-0. Here's a couple of chances. So yes, the final score was 0-0. Croatia won 4-1 on aggregate, meaning that they have qualified for the World Cup finals. A team you don't normally see on the playoffs is Italy, and they had to travel to the Friends Arena in Solna to take on Sweden, and surprisingly they fell to defeat thanks to a 61st minute goal from Jakob Johansson, giving Sweden a 1-0 win. This scoreline meant that Italy at the San Siro in Milan needed to win, and they showed passion singing the national anthem, and they tried to get a winner. And they tried to get a winner. And they really tried to get a winner. But for all their trying, they did not succeed, and come the final whistle, it was the Swedish players who were celebrating. And Italy have not qualified for the World Cup for the first time since 1958. Just for confirmation, Italy 0, Sweden 0, Sweden winning 1-0 on aggregate, and Sweden qualify for the World Cup 2018. This leaves us with one more European playoff in the qualifying, Denmark versus the Republic of Ireland, first leg at the Parken Stadium in Copenhagen. I'm not going to bore you with the details, the final score was 0-0. Let's get on to the second leg, shall we? Which took place at the Aviva Stadium in Dublin. The match started with a little bit of the luck of the Irish as the ball bounced kindly to Shane Duffy to give the Irish the lead on 6 minutes. However, from then on it didn't go well for the Republic of Ireland, and any Irish people may want to look away for the time being. On 29 minutes, Denmark did equalise thanks to Andreas Christensen, and then on 32 minutes they took the lead, Christian Eriksen scoring that one. Christian Eriksen continued to do his thing in the second half, getting a third goal for Denmark on 63 minutes and his second in the process, and then he would complete his hat-trick on 74 minutes, giving Denmark a 4-1 lead. Best not talk about the Irish defending for that one. Ireland's humiliation was completed in the last minute of the game as they conceded a penalty, which was converted by Nicholas Bentner, Lord Bentner himself, on 90 minutes. The final score 5-1 to Denmark, and that was your aggregate score, meaning Denmark have qualified pretty comprehensively for the World Cup. That's European playoffs done. Now time for the continental one, starting with the CONCACAF AFC playoff between Honduras and Australia. The first leg being at the Estadio Olimpico Metropolitano in San Pedro Sula. Luckily I can talk for as long as I want through this as the match was 0-0 and I've just got a couple of chances playing. Much like the game against Syria, Australia had drawn the first leg away, meaning there was plenty to play for in the second leg at Stadium Australia in Sydney. And, well, getting in the action was Mile Jedinak, scoring a deflected free kick on 54 minutes to give Australia the lead. I think that took an affection the Australians cared little. Surprisingly, this would prove to be the Mile Jedinak show, Australia getting themselves a penalty later in the second half thanks to handball. Mile Jedinak stepped up to take it and scored his second of the game on 72 minutes. In the final 10 minutes, Australia broke free once again, but once again Honduras conceded a penalty, and you know who stepped up to take it this time. Mile Jedinak scored his hat-trick on 85 minutes, Australia looking definitely like they're going through. Australia wouldn't have the final word though. That would go to Maynor Figueroa, scoring a consolation goal for Honduras in the 3rd minute of injury time, but the final score was 3-1 to Australia, which meant that the Australian fans were going home happy and the Australian team were heading over to Russia as the Socceroos had qualified for the 2018 World Cup. What about Australia's neighbours New Zealand? Well, they were in the OFC CONMEBOL playoff against Peru at the Westpac Stadium in Wellington. This one was also 0-0, meaning all 6 final playoff matches had a 0-0 in one of the legs, which is just bad. Over to the second leg at the Estadio Nacional in Lima now, which wasn't 0-0, and let's see how. Just over halfway through the first half and Peru were on the attack. Jefferson Farfan was able to give them the lead on 27 minutes with a rocket from just inside the area. Into the second half and the ball fell kindly to Christian Ramos from this corner and he was able to fire home on 65 minutes, giving Peru a 2-0 lead, and you can see how happy he was there. Well, when the final whistle blew, it wasn't just him who was happy, it was the entire nation of Peru as they had won the match. You can see everyone invading the pitch. It was quite a good time. The final score was 2-0 to Peru, which means they'd won 2-0 on aggregate, and it meant that they had qualified for the World Cup finals for the first time since 1982. That's it for this video. That's it for this series. I hope you've enjoyed. Like and subscribe. Who knows, maybe I'll do 2022 sometime.